edition of Talking with Colerain Township, your place to get all your information about Colerain Township. I'm very fortunate to have with me, of course, Township Administrator Jim Rowan. Jim, glad you could join us.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, you always like to bring some great guests.
I do.
And for her first time at the round table, Fiscal Officer Heather Harlow.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Today's going to be a very interesting topic, and Heather is top priority in this one.
Thank you.
Jim, why'd you bring her along?
Well, I want to talk today about the fiscal office and some recent news regarding our audit. We're very proud of that, and under Heather's leadership, we got some very good remarks from our state auditor's office. So I'll let Heather kind of break that news and talk a little bit about what we've been doing.
Absolutely. Heather, lead
Absolutely.
the way.
Well, Colerain Township has received news from the Ohio Auditor's Office that our 2012 and 13 audits were considered a clean audit.
Okay.
Now, under contract with the state auditor, Plattenberg and Associates performed our audit, and they had fantastic things to say about us. A clean audit means that there were no material deficiencies.
Thank you.
And they noticed they did not identify any deficiency in our internal controls and no instances of noncompliance with the Ohio Revised Code, which is very important.
And this sounds very prestigious. Obviously, when you're dealing with money, obviously, when someone is praising you for the good things you've done financially, in this day and age, it's a good thing.
It's a very good thing, but can I be honest?
Sure.
I wasn't surprised.
That's even better.
Yes. I wasn't surprised one bit because the changes that we have made in my office with Jim and Emily and the rest of the staff on a day-to-day basis, we are all working to ensure that compliance. Every single thing we do is working toward that compliance. The best practices, the internal controls, all of those things are all working toward this perfect clean audit.
Now, you were saying, the things that you've been building up to make this. Obviously, when you were reelected, you were working on some of these things prior to that. So some of these things were already implemented,
sure.
But now, would you say it's in full swing? And if so, what are those that you started the implementation of?
Absolutely. We have a couple, I'll let Jim talk to us about this a little bit more, but we have rearranged some of the staff. And that was one of the big issues, was that we had one person, well, 1.5 people, and then myself, and there wasn't that segregation of duties. That is so important because you can't have people doing the same things, because that's, although our staff was fantastic, it was just it was the separation of duties that just needs to be there.
Well, and the infamous too many cooks in a kitchen can spoil a big pot.
Absolutely, that there is that too. So, and then just implementing some of the safeguards for the public funds and other items of that sort, just making sure that all of the things are recorded properly. And when you have 1.5 people doing that, it's, they're moving quickly. Honestly, it's easy to hit a 3 when you mean to hit a 2.
Sure.
And that can be a big issue.
And I think you both know that, typing in a keypad, you've got to kind of watch your eyes and your fingers as it goes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're here at a digital age where one number can throw everything off.
Exactly.
So as Heather was kind of alluding, we had talked about this before, that there was a lot of streamlining and changes in staff. Where did this...
Well, let's go back, in February 2012 when I joined the township, Heather and I had the opportunity to sit down and really talk about the fiscal office and how it was organized, and the township's grown over the years. I mean, we are a very big business. We manage a $32 million budget, and to do that with a 1.5 person staff plus Heather, I have a state auditor's background. I worked for the state auditor's office for 5 years, so I had some understanding of what an adequate internal control structure should look like. So, just dealing with the sheer volume and an antiquated fiscal operating system, which is a uniform accounting network through the state auditor's office. Prior to 2012, it was a one single terminal system, which meant that only one person could be in the system at a time. Well, that in itself creates inefficiencies.
Yeah,
so
it's putting up a block right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And from trying to get our bills paid timely, there were just some challenges. So Heather and I met shortly after my arrival, and we started talking about how we want to reorganize the office, and we talked about where some of our strengths and weaknesses, and we tried to implement some of those changes with the previous staff. And some people are reluctant to change, and we decided we had to go in a different direction. And so we were able to bring in a great team, and we did that without increasing our costs. We really shifted resources.
Okay.
As an example, we were somewhat of a decentralized department previously, where we had administrative assistants in each department handling a lot of the accounting and the payroll and the fiscal matters. What we've been able to do through downsizing is really shift 3 administrative positions out of the departments and spend more emphasis on staffing the fiscal office. So instead of having a 1.5 persons in the fiscal office, we now have 3 full-time, but we were able to do that by eliminating 3 administrative assistants in other departments and consolidating positions. The other thing, and what we're trying to do now that we have a person responsible for payroll, a person responsible for the accounting side, and then Emily kind of providing the director oversight, and then Heather providing the executive oversight, we've really created this segregation of duties that really provides the safeguards that the state auditor is looking for. And so now we're bridging into the area of human resources, where human resources has been managed by each of the different departments. All the personnel records are all over the place.
Okay.
And we believe that it needs to be centralized, and that's going to also fall under the accounting HR director, Emily Randolph. So it's been a great transition. We were able to sit down and write some new protocols, and we've since networked our accounting system so that we can have multiple users, and the multiple users can be assigned privileges so that we have that proper segregation of duties.
And again, you're not locking, but making sure that those safeguards are up so that you know what goes on.
Exactly. But it is fantastic when the administrative assistant in the police department wants to know if a bill has been processed yet. She doesn't have to pick up the phone and call us.
Sure.
She can log on to the accounting system and check it herself. I'm happy to talk to her. She's wonderful.
No,
I'm happy
yeah.
to talk to her, but honestly, it's so much faster to hit the keyboard and go.
Well, and then that way it's reassurance on their end that they're already able to look in and say, okay, that's answered, and not taking away your time. Again, not like you're saying, hey, you'd love to have us sit and chat, but when other things need to be done, you can go forward.
And the reporting is fantastic because they're able to look at exactly the same thing Jim is looking at when he's doing his budgeting, and the same thing everyone else is looking at.
And it keeps it with that transparency so that everybody knows exactly where what line everybody's in, as opposed to always questioning.
And speaking of transparency, if folks are interested, all of our financial statements are posted monthly on the township's website.
So, and now you probably have done that previously.
We have.
But with these new systems involved, has that made that a lot easier as well? Or timely, maybe I should say.
It's easier and more timely, I would say. It's been, it's a matter of running some PDF files, running some reports to print those PDF files, then posting them on the website. But I really am feeling very strongly about that transparency, letting the citizens really know exactly where the money is going each and every month.
And when you had gone into this whole new networking area and getting things together, did you have to go with a new upgraded system, new software? Because it sounded like you were in an antiquated system, now moving somewhere forward.
It's the same State of Ohio Uniform Accounting Network software, but it's an upgrade that the state, that Auditor Yost has provided to the townships, cities, and villages that use it.
And were you just reluctant in getting it, or
This
was it working?
First time.
This is the first time. Okay.
It was a brand new release.
Okay. And
In
just
fact,
so that people
absolutely, that's something Heather and I talked about. Is do we leave the Uniform Accounting Network and go out and get a different type of software program? Because other townships do not use the UAN system. As a fiscal officer in another township, I'm familiar with the system, and really allows me to serve as a backup. If I have an employee that's absent, I can go in there and make changes if I need to. With Heather serving as that executive level, she's got the overall oversight of all of us. We all have different roles and responsibilities, but as the elected fiscal officer, a lot of this falls on her responsibility. So that executive oversight is very key. But the network is somewhat limited. We would like to have more flexibility in generating special reports, because we do a lot of deep dives. We'll study different account lines, and we want to know if we're spending money in maintenance, how are we spending it? Okay. And we use these tools internally. Our department heads use them. We usually look at the annual budget 3 times a year, and we do deep dives, and I do forecasting. Right now I'm forecasting out to 2022. So this helps us to be able to identify each month what our receipts and expenditures are doing, how we're tracking against that forecast, and if something looks weird or kind of out of whack, it gives us a chance to evaluate and figure out what's going on. If there's a change in a funding mechanism or there's something going on, last year we had a huge snow issue with salt, and all of a sudden our budget is starting to grow in the area of extra labor for overtime or salt purchases. It's a financial trigger that just kind of helps us say, well, whoa, what's going on in this particular account? We do a little research, and having that oversight with Heather, myself, and the department heads, it allows us to keep an eye on how the money's being spent as well.
So it sounds like you're definitely going above and beyond the big picture kind of scope when it comes financially, where a lot of places will go, well, this is working well, everything's in line, but by delving deeper, you're finding, as we've seen since you've taken office, or taken your role, Heather's taken office, that you're able to fine tune, which
Absolutely.
do you believe that has helped you in the process of where we are today as a growing township?
Yeah, I think it's helped, and I think having the additional staff in the fiscal office and a more concentrated effort in the specific areas that they're responsible for creates greater efficiency. We've got somebody focused in payroll. I'll give you an example. Up until recently, we have not been able to withhold Kentucky state income tax and Indiana state and county income tax because we haven't had the staffing, and there were some limitations prior to the networking change that you could not do that many deductions. Wow. Well, with having the additional staffing now focused, we're able to work with our employees and have those deductions taken from their paychecks, which is value back to the employee.
To the employee, absolutely.
It's something we wanted to do previously, but the amount of time and technological resources just weren't there.
Sure.
And I'm thrilled that we're able to do that because it really is a nice, I can only imagine an employee getting a bill from the tax man at the end of the year saying, write this check.
Sure.
Would have to be difficult. So it's an employee benefit really to be able to withhold that and that we send it to the state each month for them.
Well, especially when people are so used to having those deductions already taken out. You're saying, and it is, it may not look like a benefit to most people, but it really is. Like you're saying, you don't have to write that check at the end of the year. You know, both of you have said that you're very familiar with the system and now that's been upgraded. You obviously had to have looked at other pieces of software. Is that something that you're possibly still looking at, or are you really confident and comfortable with where you are?
I've personally not looked at anything other than the UAN system. I'm very comfortable with the system where it's at. I think what limitations are there as far as being able to do special reports is a small issue from my perspective. Now, Emily may have a little different opinion because she likes to generate special reports for special projects. She is working with the UAN team in Columbus, and they have looked at her as a resource because of her technical background as well, and trying to expand different authorities back to local government. So I think we'll continue to see enhancements there that will benefit us, but I believe that the system works very well for Colerain, and I don't have any interest at this point in looking anywhere else. The cost is very inexpensive as well.
That's the big thing, because what I did, I researched many different software programs that were very pretty and shiny, but boy, so was the price tag.
Yeah.
And there is just no way I could ask the citizens of Colerain Township to pay that much for a piece of software. Just the Auditor of State does a great job with keeping that software very reasonably priced for us.
And I think the other nice thing about the UAN system is, from a benchmarking perspective, is you can actually, a lot of townships use it, so they're all standardized reports, so you can actually reach out and say, I would like to have the following reports from your UAN system, and it allows us to benchmark particular areas of our finances with other townships to see how we're doing and those types of things. If you have a lot of different software platforms, trying to get the information in an apples-to-apples format's not always easy.
I'm glad that you had explained that, because during the beginning of the year, we had gone through many of the meetings, and as you've watched here on Waycross, that you had shown those benchmarking reports. And I was always questioning, and I'm sure if I'm questioning it, the citizens as well are asking that, is like, well, how are they making those comparison charts? Then here's your answer, by using a system that is so compatible.
Well, that's one component.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of other data that we collect that is not in a format, an accounting format. We have worked with the Center for Local Government in trying to create a benchmarking database, and we have some of that now on salaries, wages, and fringe benefits. But we're hoping, the school systems have a phenomenal benchmarking program. It's their interactive local report card data that you can get at the Ohio Department of Education website, and you can compare just about any type of information you want, from student performance to financial data, from school district to school district. And I would love to see township government and even municipality government get to that level at some point, so that we have an easy tool to be able to gather data and compare ourselves to our peer groups.
And since this is a piece of software from the state, I'm assuming that you can probably give feedback like that to say, hey, have you looked into something like that?
Absolutely, and the UAN technical staff is very receptive to technical ideas. It's just a matter of, the resources on their end to implement them. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the software behind the work, but obviously there's a lot of manpower now behind the office. And,
Right.
And Heather, since you have started with a 1.5.
Well, I started with a 1.
With a 1.
Well, the half didn't arrive until, not that much longer, no, not that long ago. So, and sure.
So now we're growing in that. How has that obviously has affected the office very positively? Where does that put you in regards to making this grow and keep prospering?
Well, it keeps me, although honestly, I'm sure anyone with a background like mine doesn't mind getting in there and actually sitting down at the keyboard and put your fingers on the keyboard every now and then. But it really allows me to get out of the trenches and take that 35,000-foot view and really look at that big picture, and not just be so focused on the day-to-day, but to be able to look at the year-to-year, and really take a bigger look, and to see how everything in the township all works together, and how each department is doing their financial, the day-to-day, the bill paying, the processing, looking at all of that to make sure we're all working together, to make sure the bills are getting to the office on time and the purchase orders are in place beforehand, and all of the little day-to-day nitty-gritty.
And I'm obviously none of that's really gone to the wayside, but if something were to lax, I mean, you have those backups now that is able to.
Right.
So here you are with this newer office. Where do you want it to grow? How would you like to see, since that is part of your position, to move this forward even greater?
I think utilizing technology is something that's very important, and making sure that we're using that technology to work smarter, making things more streamlined, and just, we're paying so many of our bills these days electronically, where we just take, the magic of technology just takes the money out of our account and puts it into the vendor's account.
One click, it's magic, yeah.
And along those same lines, all of our payroll is through ACH.
Okay.
We do not issue paper checks anymore to our employees.
That's what I was going to ask, is that the days are gone?
Those days are gone. Each pay period, they get a statement that lists their deductions and all of that, but we don't issue paper checks.
Do you do that by paper, or do you do that by an electronic PDF?
No, that we still do paper.
Okay.
But it's not because this is going to sound really silly, but the paper that our checks prints on is not cheap.
No, it is of a thicker paper, is it not?
It's a special paper.
Okay, that's what I
It's a
thought.
special warrant paper, and even little goofy things that people don't realize, but the check numbers are printed on the front and on the back. Because in these days of electronic banking, it is possible for a front and a back to be separated.
That's true.
I mean, this piece of paper, the front and back cannot be separated, but an electronic front and back, they can be. So it's little goofy things like that that really do add up and really do cost money for the township, and are just a resource with the human resource, the time.
And just as another example, now that we're printing on paper rather than check stock,
Right.
I know one of the requests that Emily made of the state that we did not get fulfilled, it's not high enough on the priority list yet, is to implement an email field. It's already there now in the UAN system, but it's not activated, where we can actually put the person's email address in there and have the check stub emailed to them. So it's just one less thing we have to print off,
Right.
put in envelopes,
Yeah.
distribute, all that labor cost and time
Yeah, I was going
spent
to
to do
say,
that.
you're now eliminating paper stock cost. You're now eliminating time that could be allocated to somebody not folding or stuffing an envelope. I guess it's just a matter of time on
Right.
those.
Well, and take it a step further, we talk about HR and HR's relationship to the fiscal office. Right now, our payroll department, we do everything paper forms, file them, and we've gone from this hard copy system where it's been maintained at each department. We did an RFP and looked at a lot of different options on hard copy storage versus electronic storage.
Ooh, good point.
And we have made the transition to electronic storage. It's going to be a software program. We're going to scan the personnel records into the electronic system. And then down the road, our goal is when somebody comes in and makes application, they fill the forms out, it's all done electronically and uploaded so that we're saving on paper cost.
Sure.
If I'm a department head and I need to access somebody's personnel file, instead of being able to get up and come over to get that, I can actually pull it up and look at that. And there are certain records within the HR realm that are confidential and personal, and those will have separate folders, and everything will be assigned based on password security so that we don't have people looking at things that aren't allowed to.
So if you go into something like that, will that have to go through a REDAX type of program, or will this program be able to separate all that immediately?
I believe the program has the ability to redact.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet. That's a little bit way down the road.
I was going to
but,
say, it sounds like a project that's coming after other things.
I know over the winter our goal is to try to get the personnel records and the training records for our employees uploaded in the system. And we're going to do that in-house because we feel that having each department focused on their own department, there's greater accountability over those records. And if you hire a firm to do that, there's always that concern, well, did everything get uploaded? If I'm responsible for my records, then I'm the one uploading it. I'm going to take more care in making sure they get to the right place than maybe a third party.
Again, as we've been talking about it, and I think it's been an underlying theme, is responsibility and keeping that responsibility to the department or in-house solely.
Absolutely.
And do you feel that that is a personal choice or just an overall consensus when it comes to local government now?
Well, I think that the overall expectation that we have within Colerain is that we're going to do everything within our power to drive efficiency and accountability across the board. And this is just one area of that. And there's a lot of buy-in there. I mean, we have been promoting transparency for a number of years. We continue to promote transparency. The more information we can provide out there for our public and the more confident they are in our ability to account for their resources, we believe is very important.
So when you are going through a lot of these obviously new changes and processes, we talked about this a bit earlier, is that sometimes change, there's a little bit of resistance. Do you sense that as much now that a lot of these new changes have been implemented, and that now you're kind of throwing these new things out like, ooh, that's nice, now knowing that that was easy? Or are you still seeing a little bit of that resistance, maybe internally or from the citizens?
From my perspective, I think that as the appointed leader of our township, Jim has done an amazing job of creating that culture of how can we do this better? How can we build a better mousetrap? What can we do to make this better, cheaper, faster, easier? And that's just, I feel like the employees under Jim's leadership are working to that on a daily basis. And it's not something, I don't think we're afraid of change anymore. Because you're right, change can be very scary.
Sure.
But bad change is bad, good change is good.
That is fair.
And I think to take that a step further, when we talked 2.5 years ago, we did a lot of things in silos. Every department did their own thing. They had their own way of doing things. We have transitioned to, we are Colerain. And we have implemented consistent patterns across the board. We use pay-in systems now, the same pay-in systems. So integrating this change as a township rather than as a department has gone a long way in the buy-in and changing the culture within.
And I think you even see that when you walk into the municipal building itself. With the small change that was made, keeping the police station over here, the fire station, the fire department had their office there, and then the new, what I call the wing of the administration. I think that change, even though it's slight, it made a world of difference. And that's just from an outsider looking in. And I could be wrong, but I think that is even the slightest change.
Well, and I don't know how many people know that we moved our fire headquarters to the campus now, and they're up in the Public Works building. And so we're no longer, that's just Public Works up there. We have fire up there, we have police up there, or we actually have our public safety directors up there, our fire departments up there, Public Works and Parks. So we have now integrated a campus for our governmental facilities. You get a lot better buy-in. We're one team moving forward. So we're real excited about that transition as well.
And that's a good thing, I think, because, again, if you don't notice that change, then it was a good change, that it was quick, easy, painless. But I guess I have to ask the question, was that ever the main goal, to have that campus the true over-encompassing campus? Because it makes a difference when you're going, that's the Colerain Township Municipal Complex, as opposed, well, that's where the trustees are, and there's the
Right.
community center. And
Well, I would say from my perspective, 2.5 years ago, that really wasn't on my radar. But I think as I listened and really started to understand the dynamics of the township, it became apparent to me that the culture was a main thing we needed to work on. And to get everybody on one campus and everybody understanding the vision and the direction was very important. So that kind of evolved probably in the last 8 to 10 months. And that's when I felt it was pretty necessary. And so I went and discussed it with the board and said, how do you feel about this? We've got a beautiful public works building up there. It's underutilized. This is a great opportunity to get our whole team on one campus, kind of like a one-stop shop for the community.
Sure.
You can stop there. You can, if you need to see the fire department, the police department, the public works, we're all right there together.
And now that you're adding the Hamilton County for your zoning and your permits and everything there, you're again adding to that value that's been going on. Now, of course, we've been talking about change, and change comes for good and for bad, as you had made mention. But you're no longer making change for change's sake. It's change for the necessity, as opposed for, well, it's new, or it's, as you said, it's shiny, but you're not making it for that reason.
Exactly. We are making changes because it is, after we've gone through the processes, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do to make this change. We need to make this better. And it's not, we're not just making a change because it's, oh, let's just try this for fun.
Right.
Because it's, every change we make has been thoroughly researched and vetted.
And again, you're not going to just throw something out there, let's see if it flies. No, we've talked
Sure.
a lot about what you're looking for, and you can hear it every time. My vision, the township's vision. There is a goal, there is a road that you're following. You may not follow it all the way because something might happen. You may have to veer, but knowing that those forks in the road may be there. And I think I'm assuming, and from my conversations, everybody's looking out for those now.
Absolutely.
Well, I know we're running low a little bit on time, but I do want to do a last couple questions here. Heather, as everybody does, you get to work with the administration as well as the trustees. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that that's a dual role, or do you feel that it's one and the same, a connection value like that?
It is a great connection because I'm an elected official just as the trustees, but a lot of my tasks are administrative.
Sure.
So I'm kind of the one that bounces back and forth.
You're the fulcrum.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny because somebody was saying one time about purchase orders. Well, Jim signs all of them, I signed all of them, and then the trustees sign the ones they need to sign. But it's, I'm the one that has to sign every single purchase order right down there on the bottom. So it's, I'm kind of in the middle with all of the administration and the trustees all working together. So.
And I'm sure that's, you've been very fortunate that there hasn't been a lot of change when it comes to the trustees, but when that change does happen, it seems seamless and integrated. I have to take that as a compliment to you, because that's not an easy thing.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, to some people, again, change is tough, and change is not easy. But how again would you think you balance that? Because now you're looking at someone new, and you have to get them up to speed. And
Sure.
it's not necessarily the personality aspect of it. It's trying to get them into the Colerain way.
Well, I think our newest trustee was Trustee Reinhardt.
Exactly.
Mindy is fantastic and got up to speed very quickly. And I think it came into things having some, I think with working for the prosecutor's office, that was very helpful for her to kind of know how things work. And just, Mindy is a fantastic listener and does a great job of internalizing that and then going forward from there.
Well, it sounds like, again, you have got a great team behind you.
Amazing
and you've
team.
got, you're spearheading a great team. And Mr. Rowan, of course, I have to say, You've got a great team behind you, absolutely.
We are a great team, and the employees that we have hired are dedicated. They give 110% all the time. They'll do anything for you. The outreach to the employees, if there are concerns, if we need to do a fundraiser for an employee, I mean, they're the first ones out there. It's really outstanding.
Well, I'm glad to hear all those wonderful things, and again, congratulations on the clean audit.
Thank you.
Obviously, when yearly audits.
Biannual.
Biannual.
So that's
Okay, I
why
wanted to
it's
make sure of that.
2012 and 2013. So our next audit will be 2014, 2015, which will occur in 2016.
And
So.
I'm assuming, and I can put pretty much faith that we'll probably be seeing the exact same thing back then.
That's the goal. And it will happen.
And that's important, that you're looking at it as a goal, and that is a benchmark now that you can go forward with.
Exactly.
Well, again, congratulations to your team, your staff, and as well. And I want to thank both of you for joining us tonight and letting
Thank you.
everybody know. Of course, I want to thank all of you for joining us as well. Again, I've given the opportunity to talk with Colerain Township. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. We'll see you next time, and have a great evening.